Well, hello there, motherfuckers. And there's been a lot of demand for me to talk about Gotham. And I know that this ended about a month ago. I'm a little bit late on doing this review, and it's actually I watched the season finale, or the mid-season finale rather, for season two, about a month ago when it first aired, but I didn't get around to doing a review. It's one of those things I forgot to do here on this channel. A lot to talk about, a lot of different topics, a lot of different movies, a lot of different things happening in wrestling. So sometimes I forget to do certain things. And I would like to apologize for that. It looked like I was ignoring certain people in the comments, but I did hear you, and I'm doing it right now. So I did a review of the first season of Gotham, where I did like my thoughts so far, whatever it was I did pertaining to the first season. And I said that I really was in love with the show. Now, there's a lot of people who have abandoned this show that I know. A couple of friends of mine. Why? Because it just wasn't what they were looking for when it came to Gotham. And I pretty much just says, "Oh, why? Because Batman's not in it." And the answer was yes. Well, okay, that's uh, that's really poor reasoning. I really have to say it is very, very poor reasoning for not liking this show. I feel like they're missing out on the bigger picture. It really is so much more than just not having Batman. This is a real great crime drama that's really filling in a lot of interesting, you know, story, prior to Batman. And there's a lot of great acting on this show and a lot of great character development. Um, and show's actually getting pretty good ratings, at least from what I hear. And I'm a pretty big fan of this show. And this second season has blown the first season clear out of the water. Rise of Villains is just that. We are seeing some amazing development between from the Riddler coming about, Edward Nigma, to Oswald Cobblepot, the Penguin, and how they're all rising to their prominence of when you do see them in the eventual Batman series, comic book series, or movies, whatever you want. Just the whole Batman universe in general. And we just had another great villain in Theo Gallivant, which is a man who actually takes over Gotham, and he does it in a way where he kind of masks who he is. He's actually a huge criminal mastermind, where his family lineage goes back to the very beginning of Gotham being established as a city. And basically, the Waynes ran them out of town. Um, and basically what he does is becomes mayor, kind of force the he actually kidnaps the mayor in secrecy, the real mayor, and becomes mayor because he's pretty much says that he's the one who's going to stand up to them, and he doesn't have any opposition. So he's a villain saying that he is going to fight against the villains, and I thought that was a pretty clever way to establish his character when he is one of the biggest villains himself. And we were introduced to a lot of interesting characters throughout the Batman universe, who resembled certain characters and turned out not to be them, such as I believe the name of the character is Firefly. I might be mistaken. I believe so. But basically, she is an arsonist working for a family of arsonists, and she gets the suit that Firefly wears. I still kind of sketchy on the name. Is that the name of the character? I didn't even check it before doing this review, and I apologize for that. But he's featured, or she is featured in the Arkham Origins game. I believe it is Firefly. Um, and we find out that that is not the real Firefly that would end up being in the Batman series. At least I don't think so. We see that she still is alive at the end of that whole ordeal. But I don't know if that actually ends up being the real Firefly that's known in the comics. maybe one of the best performances throughout this whole mid-season so far was probably Jerome. You may be asking yourself, who is Jerome? Well, it was a character that many people watching believed to be the Joker. He looked like the Joker. He acted like the Joker. He sure as hell laughed like the Joker. But we found out, at the end of his life in this fucking show that that was not the Joker. In fact, we learned that this was the guy that inspired the Joker, that many people were going to be inspired by the Joker. And there were probably going to be many more people that were going to carry out the acts of the eventual Joker of, Batman fame. Um, but I thought that I was a little bit, upset when he died. This young actor really knocked it out of the fucking park, to use an old cliche there. I mean, that's kind of what comes to mind, knocking it out of the park, because I mean, I was blown away. Usually when we think of these big epic performances, we think of movies. We think of um, I can't think of his name. Heath Ledger, or we think of Jack Nicholson. We think of Mark Hamill. Well, that's technically that was a movie, Mask of Phantasm, that was in theaters. So anyway, but we think of all these other Jokers. So when a new Joker comes around, it really, even though it's not the real Joker, it really shocks us. And I was really shocked by this performance. I was really taken aback by it, how well done it was. And I was saddened by his death. I wanted really Jerome to be the eventual Joker, but I guess maybe in the future we will experience more hints towards the actual Joker. But there was this really funny thing. Well, I should explain it from the start, really. Once again, spoilers. Um, I will probably put spoilers down here because people always bitch about that. But anyway, um, Edward Nigma was pretty more straight laced. We saw that he was his eccentric self, as he should be in the first season of the show. But now we see the dark side of Edward Nigma. We see that this is the eventual Riddler, and this is the Riddler, and he is the perfect Riddler. You show me him side by side with Jim Carrey and Frank Gorshin, and there's no contest here. This is the Riddler. I'm very pleased by this casting choice. He is excellent as the Riddler, and I was enjoying every single minute of the performance that he put forth this season. As he finally gets his hands on Kristen Kringle, who is this girl that he killed her boyfriend basically last season, and now he's finally able to date her. He finally gets intimate with her, and it's really interesting to see. And then we find out that he kills her, and the way how this all unfolds, and we see that Nigma is losing his mind slowly and slowly, that he has almost an alternate personality. And I couldn't help but see it, and I had to tell everybody about this. The whole thing, him looking in the mirror, how much has Spider-Man inspired people? Talking about the Sam Raimi films with the Green Goblin and the whole performance with Willem Dafoe. The whole, looking in the mirror, talking to yourself thing. I'm not saying that it was invented with Spider-Man, with the first movie by Sam Raimi, but ever since that it was showcased in that film, they always have villains talking to themselves in the mirror. And that makes me happy. That always brings a smile on my face, because I've mentioned it before on this channel. I'm a big fan of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. So whenever I see some, inspiration taken from those films, it puts a smile on my face. And as I said, I wish that Raimi would come back and direct the Spider-Man films, because those were the ones that I really kept near and dear to my heart. And as I said, I even enjoyed Spider-Man 3 to a point. But we're not talking about Spider-Man right now. But anyway, the whole split alter ego thing, I absolutely love that. And when it is done to a performance level like that, just like Willem Dafoe, this was a great performance. And then we see that he rescues a fucking dying Cobblepot, and they become friends, roommates. I was so fucking entertained by that. Also, that little plot swerve was really interesting to see two villains kind of conspiring together, and kind of it was Edward Nigma that really reawakens the fire within Cobblepot after Gallivant kills his mother, which is also another incredible scene. And that's really what it is. It's one incredible scene after another in this man, Rise of the Villains. What a fucking season this was. I don't remember seeing any TV show that was this eventful. To be quite honest, this was even more eventful than Walking Dead. There was just so much going on in each episode. And the thing is, I haven't even talked about Gordon yet. I haven't even talked about Bruce yet, and I haven't even talked about Alfred yet, because the villains really, this was their season. But then again, we saw great performances and great events happening with Bruce Wayne, with young Bruce Wayne. As we see, because Gallivant is manipulating Bruce as well. And there's this amazing scene in it. I forget if it's the second to last episode of this mid season, but um, basically, Gallivant takes who I believe is maybe, don't recall, I think it's maybe his niece, and he uses her as a tool to get to Bruce. So Bruce, will get butterflies, and basically, Gallivant will be able to take over Wayne Enterprises more easily. So he's using her as a tool. And there's this great scene where she is, supposedly kidnapped, and they're taking Bruce into another room, and they're going to mutilate him, um, because they want information about the whole, Wayne Enterprises deal. And this scene has such a clever swerve where Bruce organized the whole thing. And I remember just watching this scene, and I was blown away, because I was like confused by this scene. I was like, is how are they going to get around this one with Bruce being dragged into the other room? They're not gonna hurt Bruce. And then we see that he organized the whole thing. And even me, who's been around the block a couple of times when it comes to TV and film, for me to even be scratching my head thinking about what's going to happen. Now, I'm not saying I'm the most observant person, but they fooled me. And if a show could do that, whatever it is, if you want to say I'm fooled easily, go right ahead. But I enjoyed being fooled. I enjoyed the fact that this show is throwing me a curveball. I really did. I really enjoyed being along for that ride, and I love this, you know, this child actor that they chose to be Bruce Wayne. I think he is definitely sophisticated enough to carry this role. He does a great job, and this is probably my favorite Alfred. He's so tough, and just you could kind of see where Bruce draws inspiration to be Batman. As it comes to fighting skills and such, being trained by Alfred. Just everything being handled so well on this show. It's really just a great show, and I feel like it's a very complete show. Like, the characters are very well developed. The story is going in a pleasing direction, and you can really see them working their way towards what will be the eventual Batman series. So the main complaint, oh, it doesn't have Batman in it. We knew that from the start. If you started watching this show expecting to see Batman by like the seventh episode, you were fucking dreaming. You were watching the wrong show right from the start. This is definitely a show that requires you to have a little bit more of an open mind. This is like the same type of people that complain that in Smallville you didn't get to see him in his suit. You didn't get to see that. The thing was, you knew right from the start what you were getting. So to expect something different and then to be disappointed in the end by not getting something that pretty much was promised to you that it was not going to be there in the first place is a bit stupid. It really is. You're basically watching something and you are setting yourself up for disappointment. If you're sitting around watching the show expecting Batman and you're completely ignoring all the great character development, all the great peculiar situations that take place and the very creative nature of this show. I mean, you could definitely see the makers of this show are having a lot of fun. They look like they're having way more fun with this than anybody on The Walking Dead. Really, to be quite honest, there's so much. It's definitely livelier. Now, don't get me wrong. Reason why I'm comparing it to The Walking Dead is because, well, there's some similarities. It's very much heavily based on character development and story. And it's one of my favorite shows. Now, I know the old saying, it's not fair to compare, but in this case, I just, want to use it as a comparing device. Just saying that show like Gotham, it has a little bit more going for it as far as character development, and just excitement happening. I never felt like there were any lulls in the story. There was always something new being introduced, something crazy, something about Galavan that we didn't know before, and his story unfolds in the end, and he meets his ultimate demise at the end of the mid season. And yeah, I was pretty happy with that. Just um, he they established enough of a story with him where it was okay to just exit him out, because we really learned everything we could. He really had a firm grasp on everything. He seemed villainous enough, and this is what I talked about when I said about when I did my review on Age of Ultron. Villains, they need to be menacing. They need to seem as a threat. And something like Galavan, someone who doesn't even possess any powers or anything of that nature. He's just a normal guy, really. He's just evil. And that's the thing. What I liked about Galavan is that he was heartless. He was cold. He did have that backstory. He was trying to get revenge on the Waynes, but he was just an evil guy, pretty much. And I like that. There was like no excuses behind it. This is just who he was, and he just was hell bent on revenge. And even after he killed Wayne, he would still take over Gotham, and just countless people would be murdered just because he's evil, and that's what his family does. And that's something I really appreciated. You really got to know these characters, and you were scared by these characters. And Edward Nigma being sort of a goofball, nerdy, very his murderous ways. It's just almost disheartening. You just sometimes it was kind of hard to look, seeing what he would do next. He was becoming the next Cobblepot, a heartless murderer. That really just couldn't control himself. And these are fully developed characters. These are characters that have years of lifespan to them, because they could just keep growing and growing, and they're handling this show in an amazing way. So if you haven't seen this show, or you have, I hope that I helped you analyze and maybe enjoy the show even more than you thought you did. And for the people that are sitting around waiting for Batman, I hope that I've reached a couple of you and kind of convinced you to watch this show. Because if you are a Batman fan, or just a comic book fan, you just want to check this out and see, you read comics because you want great stories, and you like interesting characters that are capable of doing interesting things that are out of the ordinary. And the show delivers in that respect. So I think you're really missing out just because it doesn't have Batman. Um, so yeah, there you go, motherfuckers. There's your review of Gotham. Gave you a nice, close to 20-minute review on it. 18 minutes, 50 seconds right now. I said, pretty much what I needed to say here. Oh, and Barbara Gordon. Wow. Did she do an amazing, well, not Barbara Gordon yet, but Barbara. She did an amazing psycho job here when she kidnaps Gordon and his girlfriend, and they, it's kind of a frightening scene. And it was just so well done. Everybody just plays their role so well on the show. So anyway, yeah, just had to mention that about Barbara, because that was, a show stealer right there. And there's a lot of show stealers to discover in this show. So yeah, I definitely recommend it to you.